I need to be closer. Oh, hello. I'm sorry, that was my private message because my friends are here. Uh, and you probably didn't know that we have communion service, right? Okay. Actually, I just saw them yesterday because Marzena yesterday graduated. She is now a true nurse. So praise God. Okay. So, friends, we already read this text, when Israelites asked Jesus, so what is your proof, who you really are? Why did they ask Jesus that question? Why did they ask him about this? The true thing is that they knew that Messiah should come. They were waiting for Messiah. And in their understanding, there was no bigger prophet than Moses. Why Moses was the biggest prophet? He was the biggest because he talked to God face to face. There was no other prophet like Moses who talked to God face to face. So when they were looking for the Messiah, they were looking for someone who will be at least as good as Moses. So they asked Jesus, okay, we know what Moses did, so show us your power. And that's quite interesting, because we can easily compare those two people. We can compare Moses with Jesus, okay? Just look at this. I will read you some things, okay? If I will be talking about person who was chosen by God himself, who was the most humble, who was born in the tribe of Judah, was raised in a royal family. His birth was accompanied by the slaughter of infants. To accomplish his mission, he had to talk to the king. He was feeding people with the food from heaven. He rescued his people from slavery, and he led people to the promised land through the water. And he was talking to God face to face. There are only two people who fit, right? It is about Moses, and it is about Jesus. Well, some people say, hey, Jesus didn't raise in royal family. Well, he did, right? Because both Mary and Joseph, they had royal lineage, right? So actually it fits to Jesus and to Moses, and that's really amazing when we see it. And so they are asking, okay, Jesus, are you as good as Moses? And Jesus says, well, you always have to remember that Moses didn't give you food from himself. He didn't give you water from himself. And then he's saying, but you know what? I will give you the food. And I am the food. I will give you the water, and I am the water, right? So Jesus is literally explaining why he is greater than Moses. But this time, I don't want to focus on John chapter 6. I want to focus on another reason why I believe that Jesus was greater than Moses. And I believe that this reason is his humility, his humbleness. Well, here's the thing. In Numbers chapter 12 and verse 3, you can read, now the man Moses was very humble, more than any person who was on the face of the earth. You know who wrote this? Oh, Moses. So who wrote that Moses was the most humble person on earth? Himself. Can he do it? Can you say that you are the most humble person? Well, actually, you can. That's pretty funny, you know. I will tell you why. It's because humbleness is not low self-esteem. Okay, it's not the same. So, actually, even Jesus said something like, "Learn humbleness and learn it from me." I will read it to you at the end of the sermon, but this is exactly what Jesus said. Learn humbleness and learn it from me. So actually you can be humble and say everyone that you are humble. If you are truly humble. If not, then don't do it. Because there is a reason why Moses said about himself that he is the most humble person. Okay? We always have to read the context. And the context is that in Numbers chapter 12, verse 1, you can read, "Then Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married, for he had married a Cushite woman." So Miriam and Aaron, what did he do? What did they do? They were speaking against Moses. And what was the reaction of Moses? What did he do? He did nothing. He just explained that he did nothing because he was the most humble person. That was the reason. So he was humble that much that actually in verse 4 we read, "And the Lord suddenly said to Moses and Aaron and Miriam, 'You three go out to the tent of meeting.' See the three of them." So the three of them went out. So God had to say to them, "Hey, you three, come here. We need to talk." So actually, God invited the three of them to explain to Miriam and Aaron that what they are doing is wrong. So God himself had to protect Moses because Moses didn't stand for himself, right? And it is true humbleness. It requires true humbleness, to say, "Hey, I'm not the one, who have to convince you," and so on and so on. So God did this. But you know what? When we see the story of Jesus, you know that Jesus did exactly the same? Jesus is the best teacher of humbleness. We read that, "And then the high priest stood up and came forward and questioned Jesus, saying, 'Do you not offer any answer for what these men are testifying against you?' But he kept silent and did not offer an answer." He just kept silent. The fact is that he had to answer later when the high priest told him, "I am putting the oath on you. You have to answer." And because he is the high priest and Jesus had to respect him as the high priest, he finally gave the high priest an answer. But that wasn't an answer when he was trying to rescue himself, to explain himself. He just said, "Yes, I am the Son of God," exactly as what you are saying. I am the one. Well, it didn't finish well because the high priest said, "Okay, now we have the proof. Now we can kill him." Well, we know that was the plan, but it is It is really scary when someone is accusing you and you are not trying to protect yourself. It really requires humbleness. It really requires self-denial. And this is exactly what Jesus was doing. That's why he is so amazing, you know. And actually, we can see it through his whole life. Because when he was born, he was not born in a palace, right? He didn't grow up in a wonderful area. He grew up in Nazareth, probably the worst place to grow up. So, when we see everything that Jesus was doing, his whole life was about serve others. Actually, hey, he was a policeman, isn't he? He's serve and protect. Serve and protect, right? This is exactly what Jesus did. Serve. So, we know this about Jesus, and we really believe that this is really something. And we also see it during the Last Supper. The interesting thing that I am finding in this is that we know the story, right? We can read the Gospel of John, chapter 13, when John is explaining when Jesus took water and he started washing feet of his disciples. And when he said that you should do the same, that you should serve each other, and so on and so on. This is exactly what Jesus did. That was during the supper, right? So he already gave them the biggest lesson of humbleness. So they saw it. They saw Jesus as a humble servant. And you know what they did later? It's Luke chapter 22, and I will be reading from verse 24. And a dispute also developed among them as to which one of them was regarded as being the greatest. So Jesus already gave them the biggest lesson of humiliation. And then they said, okay, well, we got our lesson, so now, who's the biggest? Who's the greatest? Who's first? That's crazy, isn't it? Jesus already served them. And they didn't understand. So Jesus told them, the kings of the Gentiles domineer over them, and those who have authority over them are called benefactors. But it isn't this way for you. Rather, the one who is the greatest among you must become like the youngest, and the leader like the servant. For who is greater, the one who reclines at the table or the one who serves? Is it not the one who reclines at the table? But I am among you as the one who serves. Do you think that they learned their lesson? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about this. But actually, we should learn our lesson. Because you know what? When we are in the church, and when we understand that the church is about ministry, the serving one another. That when I am here as a pastor, or Mike as an elder, and John as an elder, it doesn't mean that we are any better than the others. You know what does it mean? It means that we have to serve you the most. That we are here for you. And that's really interesting because this is exactly how God created this world. Because He created this world in the way that everyone and everything is taking something and giving something. And when I am taking something and then I am giving something, someone else is taking something that I am giving and is using it. And that's something really wonderful. I really love to think about how God created this world, you know. And the easiest process of breathing. Do you know that the breathing is so amazing? Do you know that the breathing process is actually that we are taking some sugar from food and then we are doing, you know, breathe in, then breathe out. And you know what happens during that time? We breathe in oxygen. And the blood is taking oxygen. And it's carrying for your whole body. And this oxygen connects in your cells. It connects with the sugar. And it transforms it into steam and into, so it's water and it's carbon dioxide. Plus energy. Okay? Plus energy. So we are using this energy. Okay? We are not thinking about this, but think about this. Every living cell in your body is a pure miracle. And God is doing this in the way that we breathe in, and we breathe out, and we breathe out carbon dioxide. And every tree and every plant is taking carbon dioxide, plus the sunlight, plus something else, you know, and it's transforming it into what? Into oxygen. We are taking something to give it back, and something is taking it back to give something back to us. So God created this world in this the most beautiful way, when everyone and everything is responsible for taking and giving. That's the way this world is working for at least, you know, for this 6,000 years. That's so amazing. But sometimes we are in the church, we are the Christians, and our attitude is to what? Take. You know what happens if we just take and not give back anything? It's even hard to imagine how much air, how much oxygen, how much air can you keep in your lungs? And for how long, right? We have to give, we have to take, and we have to give. And actually, this is exactly what Jesus did. He came here to this planet to do what? To serve, to give. This is exactly what Jesus did. Will Jesus get something from it? Oh yeah. what he will get? Our love. Because actually that's all he cares. That's all he needs. He cares about our love. He wants us to love him. And actually he wants us to love each other, to serve each other, to give and to take, to serve each other. And actually this is exactly why I believe that he established, the communion and foot washing. Why are we doing this? Didn't you wash your feet this morning? I hope so. So it's not about the hygienic stuff, right? We can wash our feet on ourselves. We can do it. So, it's not even like in times of Christ. Because in times of Christ, washing feet, well, you can just imagine, when it's 100 degrees outside and you're walking barefoot or in sandals and you know how your feet are looking after that whole day, right? So actually, it is really nice to cool your feet into water, right? It's really nice to do it. But Jesus did this because that was his example, how much we should be the servants one to another. And when we are in the church, that's our responsibility. That's how everyone will see that, hey, they are truly Christian because they serve each other, they like each other, they love each other. Of course, we can say about foot washing that it is also, a symbol of washing sins and so on and so on. It's all true. It's all true. But what I believe that is the most important is that this is something that should help our characters to improve. Isn't it? And you know what? I totally understand that today it's something totally different than it was 2,000 years ago. Because I believe that most of you have problem with giving someone your feet to wash it. You're not having problem to wash someone else's feet, right? Isn't that right? I know it's true. I'm talking to you. But when we are here together, we are here because we have to learn our lesson to be as servants. And Jesus said, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Learn humbleness and learn it from me. This is exactly what Jesus said. Learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. I'm just worrying, how many of us can say that? I know that I have to learn my lesson. Sometimes I have these thoughts about myself, and these are not very good thoughts. These are like, oh, I would like to be someone greater and I would like to do this or that. But you know what? When I am here with you this Saturday, during this service, I'm just realizing that when I am serving you, that makes me the biggest person in this church. Well, I am the biggest physically, right? But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Being a servant is the biggest thing that you can do as a Christian. Following the Christ example is the best way you can do and you can live. So, friends, I would like to invite you to go down for the foot washing. We have those foot washing for men, women, and pairs, right? So, I would like to invite you to follow Irene. Go downstairs and we will do it, and then we will continue our service.